great state of Alabama introduced the Protection of Women in Olympics and Amateur Sports Act. What does this bill do exactly?
First of all, Harris, I can't believe we're having to talk about this. Coaching 40 years, the best thing that's ever happened that come out of Washington, D.C. in sports is to protect women, Title IX. But now this administration, especially the Democrats, are going after women. They attack women, they hate women, and so they're going after women's sports, and that's where it all starts. So we want to protect women's sports. I put a bill out last year, Protect Women and Girls in Sports Act. Well, it didn't get to first base. Schumer wouldn't bring it to the floor. Now we're doing the same thing for the Olympics and amateur sports. It won't get to first base, but we're trying to bring to the fact that 69% of the people in this country are totally against men playing in women's sports. We got to hold on for another year, just like we're holding on for another year at the border, because we don't have much time left.
When all else fails, go back to the red meat culture war topics, I guess. It's the plan for Alabama football coach and Senator Tommy Tuberville, especially since what's failing is Donald Trump, who was told by an appeals court that he actually isn't above the law in response to his immunity claims. Now remember, Tuberville always bathes in these fights because they're easy, low-hanging fruit that always tend to rile up his supporters.
Talk about the Pentagon's, abortion policy and what Americans actually need to understand about how extreme it really is. I mean, they're using federal dollars to facilitate abortions. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah, exactly. And what they did is, after Roe Wade went down, the next month they said, well, we can't control what's happened in the states, but we can control what happens to federal employees. So they just went out and said, let's just make us up a policy. We won't send it through Congress like we're supposed to do. We're going to break the law, break the Constitution. And so that's what they did. And they said, we're going to give abortion travel, and we're going to pay for that by taxpayers' money. They can't tell us about the policy in terms of the abortion itself. It's been rape, incest, or health of the mom. But we asked in one of our hearings, what month are you going to go by for the abortion? They couldn't tell us whether it was abortion after birth.
He originally thought that attention-grabbing series of stunts of kneecapping military appointments to make his flawed point about women's reproductive rights in the armed services would cement him as a culture warrior. But since the past couple of elections have also proven to the GOP that they're on the wrong side of the abortion issue, Tuberville's returned to complaining about trans athletes, all 32 of them out of the 480,000 NCAA competitors. His complaints might be played out, even for supporters.
On my first day in office, I'll revoke Joe Biden's cruel policies on so-called gender-affirming care. Gender-affirming, a process that results in the physical mutilation of minor children. It's not even believable. 10, 15 years ago, could you imagine even talking about these subjects? Think of that. Gender-affirming care. It's not going to be a problem. As soon as we get in, it'll all be ended. I'll sign a new executive order instructing every federal agency to cease all programs that promote the concept of sex and gender transition at any age. It's enough. I ended it in the military. I took a lot of heat, but I ended. In the military, you're not allowed to take drugs, but massive amounts of drugs. And people are disturbed in so many different ways. Like people, they have their ideas, and I'm not going to knock anything, but in the military, you're not allowed to take practically an aspirin. And massive amounts of drugs are taken. They have the operation. You need massive amounts of all forms of drugs. And so just on that basis alone, I ended it. And we will keep men the hell out of women's sports. You think that's okay? Think that's okay?
Looks like even Donald Trump is tired of saying it, because that lack of energy behind those first-day promises is telling. He's gotten to the point of just reciting the daily mantra to the masses about who to hate and how he's going to put their disdain into some kind of action. The argument is just played out, probably even for MAGA supporters that should be worried about the multiple criminal cases that Trump doesn't appear to be gaining any traction on. And in fact, leadership is seeing that they're losing the culture war that used to be a layup. So what do they turn to next?
We've got some new polling on this. On the issue of trans issues, polling higher is people are more worried, voters are, about attacks on trans families than they are about trans people competing in sports. When asked about issues involving schools, the top concern you can see here was book banning. Now there's word major donor to the GOP, Peter Thiel, is unhappy and is going to hold his money out because he doesn't like these debates about abortion and trans and bathrooms and all of that. Are you worried that these cultural issues are hurting the GOP?
Well, one, the Democrats are using this word book banning. You're seeing it a lot. You saw it on Biden's launch. That's a lie. There isn't book banning. What Republicans are doing are protecting our children and parental rights and saying 5-year-olds shouldn't be reading sexually explicit material. Parents should have a say in what's happening with our kids. And I think most Americans support that, but it's good to know the Democrats' playbook, and we're going to push back on that, especially coming from a Democrat Party that is banning freedom of speech, that is canceling people, that is destroying your life if you don't think with their orthodoxy. This is a Democrat Party who is saying if you think outside of the box of everything we are dictating to you, we will make you lose your job, we will destroy you. So they're banning people.